Okay, welcome back to our Camp 1012, and I hope you're doing well. And in this pandemic situation, I'm happy. And still, we got a lot of students here face to face, and I believe it. Like to switch app session. I think the best solution is you can find one that can switch with you. For example, if you want to jump from level 1 to level 2, and there might be another student want to do the reverse way, I think that's the best you can switch them. So my suggestion is, in case you want to switch between labs, just find someone switch with you. That's the best solution. Actually, no matter which labs you stayed in, we're going to deliver the lab session at tutorials there. We're doing the same amount of job. It's okay for us. However, you know that those laboratory, they have limited number of seats there, limited number of computers there. In case we got too many students, um, in one lab, there might be some students they don't have machines to use. So that's the real problem we're going to have. So anyway, make sure the best solution, find someone switch. And the last solution is you can jump between labs there. Um, and also, I would suggest you let your host department know you are changing your lab session there. In case sometime they might curious about attendance, they might check it, and it may cause some issue if you're not there. So anyway, that's about the lab session. And um, let's get the lecture two started. And today, as you have seen here, get ready means we're going to prepare the tools, prepare the environment for programming. And today, the goal is to let you have some hands-on experience a little bit. But the first goal is set up the environments. We have to get the tools ready before we can actually programming. Of course, beside what I mentioned, programming is a training for your logic, and it could be more practical. And today we're going to demonstrate something which might make sense. It's a little toys. It's a little toy I made last week. So here I would like to share with you. I think it's make much more sense there. The thing I'm going to demonstrate, it's here prepared. It's a vibration sensing system. It senses the vibration. So, for example, it could be used for predicting the earthquake. And once you sense the vibration and alarm sound, and let people know, they could be better prepared for that. And the other thing might be, think about the scenario like you're in a party and everybody's high, and especially after drinking several rounds of beers, and you make another noise, but your neighbors may not be happy about that. So before they come to complain, you might it would be better there is an alarm to let you know you're too loud and stop doing that. So that's the vibration stuff. And we're going to do that with Python with 10 lines of statement here. So that's what I prepared. Let's see what it is. First, in that case, I'm going to share this screen. Okay, so, oh, you can't see it here, but do you see it? Do you see it in the Teams? A lot of people, they might have the Teams. Do you see it in the Teams? No. Okay. Not sure what happened. I'm gonna share it again, maybe. Let's share it. Let's share it. Okay. You see my screen there? You see the video? Okay, that's it. Okay. Okay, great. So this is something I'm gonna demonstrate. You see, I actually prepare something like an apartment there. So in case there's earthquake, I'm gonna demonstrate there's alarms will be on and let people know. So the program here, let me show you the program, and that is the program. Okay. It's a problem. You can't see it on the projector. So let me do something before you can actually see it. So this what the students see on the Teams. So I'm going to demonstrate that with the program. That's weird. You should be able to see the program. It probably has been blocked. Let me just cat. Okay, see here, that's a program I'm gonna use for this demonstration. It's not on, so it doesn't work right now. So let me put the pattern on. Let me run this program in that case. Okay, it's on, and let's see, in case this apartment is checking. So it worked. And in case, this can be used for, as I mentioned, earthquake prediction there. And in the second scenario, you might have a party with your friend. And in case, as I mentioned, after several rounds of beers, everybody's getting high. So they are trying to make noise and start dancing. Oh. And didn't know when to stop. So, okay, I'm glad it works. Okay, that's a demonstration I'm gonna do here today. And you see here it's Python and 10 lines of statements we have used. So in that case, after demonstration, let me switch to the slides. Oh. Let me switch back to where we were. Okay, you see here, that's a program where we have used for that demonstration. It's just 10 lines of statements. You can roughly guess what it is, but I will explain later because we have not even started. Might be a little challenge for you to read the code, but I'll explain it later. But why I'm doing this? First of all, as I mentioned, I'm trying to make sense because you guys from civil engineering and environmental engineering, and those kind of things probably could be used in the future for something like smart buildings, smart cities, there, and it can be done with Python. And that's probably give you one more reason to learn those programming languages there. The second is actually we can, what happened here is, as we mentioned last time, the program as a whole, it's about input and outputs. So a lot of students doesn't understand they have to learn Python. I don't want you to be confused because we're going to use the online compilers a lot. There is not too much input and outputs like this. You got inputs and you get an alarm immediately. So what we have done, I explained last week, after programming, the program will be sent to the computer. And the computer is doing the things you order, it's executes the instruction you have given. So this is about computer, but it just happens in the computer. When you're using the online compilers, it just happens on the websites. And sometimes you can't feel what happened in between, not like this. So that's one reason I'm doing this demonstration. That means actually you can do Python on a lot of devices, and this is one of them. And that means when you're given the instructions with Python, probably, and you can actually let the different devices doing the job. Like if you replace this part with the music box, it's just gonna play the music. And if you replace that part with other devices, it just do the other stuff. It's just about input and outputs. And you define the inputs and you replace with the outputs, you can do different types of things. For example, the input might be the keyboard, might be a microphone, might be the joystick, or the output could be the calculator, could be the music box, and could be alarm like this. What I have done here is actually got some of sensors. This is what I have done. I have a vibration sensors there, which I put it on the floor. I have a LED, as you see, it just lights on, the red lights is on when there is noise. And I have a buzzer there as well. That's the reason you heard the sound. And that's a program. And actually, the one I use for programming, it's not a computer, it's a mini computer. You could say in that way. It's called a Raspberry. It's a mini computer there. Actually connect such kind of thing to that computer and make that work. So what I did here is vibration sensor on the floor, and it's a buzzer there, and here is a LED. So with that Raspberry, just connect them together to make the whole system. Here is what happened there. And taking back to that framework, you could see here, the input here is a vibration. The output is a buzzer and the LED. So here is the program, and you can do something like that. As mentioned, you can change the inputs and change the outputs as you wish in the future, probably. So, so I just want you to have a big picture before we start, because we're gonna introduce the online compilers a lot. I don't want you to just know the online compilers. I want you to know more about Python programming, and because the course, we are fundamental programming, and we have to learn programming and applications. So we have to learn applications as well. So, okay. As mentioned, you can actually nowadays when you can do programming, you can program a lot of devices, like the data centers, like the workstation, like on your laptop, on your cell phone, on the Raspberry, which I have just used, and your smart watch, and also there are a lot of tiny devices, you can use Python to do the program, and you can do it with another fancy stuff there after you handle Python. Okay, that's it. I hope you get motivated by knowing those kind of stuff, but let's get our hands dirty. Let's start to prepare the environment and the tools we need for programming. So the first thing is online compilers, which I have introduced last week, and some students get it work on their laptop already because it's quite easy. They just use that link to reach that web page. You can instantly you can make the hello world work there. So this is quite easy, and we can share the link. Please share the link in the chat box again. So in case some students haven't played with it, and you can do it now. It's quite easy to use. However, there's also disadvantages there because there is less control. Because what happened for online compiler is you program on the web page, actually those programs will be executed at the server end, at the cloud end, not on your computer. Even you see the result there, but it's actually executed at the other end, not on your computer. So that means because you don't have the access to the remote end, you don't have access to the cloud, you don't have access to the server, so there's less control. You can just that's the reason we're gonna use it for practice our programming skills. We learn the logics there, but if you want better control, you do better to have this one is with better control, the command line compilers, because it's actually executed on your computers rather than on the cloud end. As we have demonstrated, it actually works in different operation systems on a Linux, Windows, and on your Mac. So I actually have demonstrated how to run it on the Windows last time. You use basically you use the Notepad to do it. It's just a text editor you program there and run with Python there as well. So today, because we have introduced Windows, maybe it will be better to do it on Mac system today. So that let's do it later. But before that, because we actually receive a lot of questions from students. Some of them mentioned they don't actually understand the computer itself. They don't use computer that much. Now they have to start to program. It's a little bit challenge to them. So in that case, I would like to offer short tutorials about the CMD and the terminal. You might, I guess not a student or not, they haven't used those. Most of the time, you're using your mouse, moving on the screen to use the software, and that's what we call user interfaces, sometimes graphic interfaces. But CMD and terminal is the way actually it can control the computer in a different way, as I had demonstrated last time. So to do that, you need to understand how the files are stored on your computer. It's actually organized. Let me draw something. Your computer have a storage. The storage can store your files. Let me draw something. A pen. So let's see, you have you have a storage. Why I can't draw it? It's weird. I can't draw it with the pen. It doesn't matter. Let me switch to. We can't see it. In that case, I can use the paint. I guess you can see it here. Let's see. You have a storage. This is your computer. This is your computer, and computer has a storage. And the storage of files are usually organized by directory of folders. On Windows, it's called folders because they have. You might have seen there is a specific icon, looks like a folder, something. Forgive my poor drawing scale. So it's organized as folder. The folders actually organized as a tree. Starting from the root folder, you have the folder 1, folder 2, and folder 3 there. And usually each folder you give it a name there. On your graphic user interface, this is visible to everyone, and you have a name for it. And inside each folder, you can build subfolders there. And you can go this on and on. You will see this is a tree-like structure. So the CMD is a way to access this structure with the command line, as I have shown last time. The way is every time, let me change the color. Every time you actually have at somewhere, at one folder. So if you want to get inside that folder, you have to type CD into that folder. And if you want to go, so after you type this, you jump into the folder, this folder, folder 2. And if you want to go further, you use the CD to go to subfolders there, or or subdirectories there. And on Linux and Mac OS, so it's using the name of the directory. So, but the way going inside the subdirectory is the CD. So you go inside, and as I mentioned, as you're doing this, so there is supposed to be one folder you're currently in. So if you looking back, the path is from the root to here to the folders you currently in. It's called a path. So inside each folder, you might have several files. So the path of the files is those sequence of folders plus that file name. So this is a physical structure most of the operation system are using. So that's the reason last time you see I typed CD a lot, and I create the file a lot, text files there. So usually on this is for Windows to access the folders in CMD, you have to type CMD there from here. So what I have done last time a lot. So you're gonna have this black window pop out, and you can issue your command here. Let's see. You can go here, and you will see. Oh, sorry, this is Windows. So after you get inside that folder, you can use dir to display what inside that folder. And you can go further to the subfolders and go further again. This is the way we're accessing the files. Yes, you say. If you want to quit from a subfolder to its parent folder, you use cd two dots and you get back to see here. So here P is the current root of that storage, and this is one folder. And right now I'm in the root of that drive of that storage. So in that case, you know where your program is saved, because it means a lot. When you're using a graphic user interfaces, you visibly know where it is. You can find them out. But the program doesn't have that graphic user interfaces. To access the file, they need to know the path. They need to know where it is. So this is quite important because in case you're going to program in command line, but it's optional if you just want to know the program logic. If you just want to practice your programming skills, the online compilers is better. So this is for your information. We're just trying to be more comprehensive. You see here, you have the command line, and you can cd or to different subfolders here, and you can use a dir to know the content inside that folder. And so using dir, you could see there are several files in that subfolder, and here is the paths. Here's the path of that folder, and those are files. And you can also create some folders, and it's just change the paths there. This is what on Windows, and this is what on Mac OS. It's basically works like the same. And you could have the directory, and you could go inside that directory, and you could display the contents. Here is a little bit different. You use ls in Mac OS. Mac OS has different command system. It's just a little bit different from the Windows system. So after knowing that, I think this is pretty much about everything you need to know about the operation system, how they are organizing the files and the folders. And with that in mind, you can actually start to program in CMD. This is what I have done last time. Hello world, we create the file, and it goes to one folder. You need to know where it is. And then you can run that Python program on that in that folder. This is a Linux. Linux is kind of different. To create a file, you can use a touch. And to modify the files, you can use the VI to modify that file. And to save, you have to press ESC, and then you type in this, and you can quit from there. We will provide the tutorials about this, which you can follow. But to be more intuitive, I can do it here. Let's see. Let's do, I do have a mic system here, so I can demonstrate what happened on mic. So let's get back to there, and probably you will, it doesn't show anything. Let me do it again. Okay, I guess you see it right now. Let me enlarge that. You can see it. It's a demonstration. In Mic, and here is a terminal, which you can find from the application session there. You just type terminal, and you will find that program, that application. So after you have the terminal, let's see, currently, let me start a new terminal window. And so I got a window, but right now I'm at the root of the storage. If I want to go here, the best way is I copy. That will copy the path of that folder. We're trying to get into the courses. So I copy it. You will see the path has been copied here. And I use command plus V to get it here. Then I enter. Right now, I'm in this folder. So after that, if we want to see what inside that folder, I use ls. You could see the correspondence of these three folders there. You see. So to demonstrate the programming, we can use touch. Let's see, hello.py. So you see, here's a new file created, hello. So you can actually modify them. In that case, you can use the text edit. You will see here's nothing there. But if you would like to do it in command line, we can use the VI to do it, and we can just print hello world. Oh dear. You have to press EXC and this. Right now, if you open this file up, you will see here hello world, which I just put in a command line. So after that, I can run that program, hello, use Python, and you will see the hello world. So this is a complete process program on your Mac system. I see a lot of students are using Mac, a lot of them, all of them there. Okay, so this is a short demonstration about how to do it in command line. So we will back to there later. In the tutorial, we're gonna repeat that again. So and don't worry. In the lecture, I just want you to feel about it. So after that, and I think it will be better for you to do it by yourself in the lab session. And we prepare several videos about that. You can do it by yourself. And this is just what I have done. I actually already put them in the slides. And if you're interested, you can just follow. What I mentioned, in every system, it's just work very similar. To change directory or folders, you use cd. To display the contents, you use ls or dir there. To create a file, you can use touch, or you can use a notepad directly. And here to delete the files, you can use the rm or del there. This is just short tutorial about how to program a different operation system and how to operate the files on different systems, how to display them. So I think the reason we are introducing this here, because the command line will give you the most powerful control of your computers. If you're trying to do the program on different devices, like what I have done for Raspberry, you got to use the command line. So it's the best choice. But in between, to make it easier, you could have IDE to help you to program. And we will provide IDE is something like you have a graphic user interfaces there, and this is something you're familiar with. It's just like using the Office, like using a Word to prepare documents there. So it's much more easier, and we will teach you how to set those IDE up in the lab session. So you don't have to worry about that as well. Today, here in the lecture, we're just trying to provide overview about different tools. So far, we have online compiler, we have the command line. The command line one's a little bit complicated there, but we're going to introduce how to hands-on on those command line compilers. You don't have to use it for examination and also assignments, because as I mentioned, we're going to use the online compilers for as a standard for marking. You can use command line, but make sure you have tested it on the online compilers there. And also, you can use IDE because it's easier there. So, and anyway, this is just an overview about the tools. And let's take a break for 10 minutes. In that case, if you're interested, you can do it on your computer. I encourage you to do it on your computer with the command line, because as what I have shown here, the online compiler is the easiest one because you don't have to set it up. You just open the link on your browser and you get there for programming. The flexibility is low because you don't have too much control of that environment. And also debugging is some of the concepts we're going to introduce later. Actually mentioned a little bit in the lecture one is something like you can stop the program in between when it's running intermediate lines. You don't have to run the program as a whole. In that case, you could check what's happening there. Sometimes it will help you to understand the logic and also to locate some errors of your program. The command line configuration efforts is moderate, and we will show how to do it. Don't worry about that. But the flexibility is the maximum, as I mentioned. It controls a lot of things. It controls the computers directly. Debugging support is no. It can. It's not easy. It's possible, but it's not easy to do the debugging. So the idea is a balanced one. You configuration efforts, it's a maximum because you have to do more things. It's not that difficult. We will show you how to do it. And the flexibility is the medium compared to the previous two. And the debugging support is the maximum. And it's easier to do debugging. If you got a command line work on your computer, here's something you can try, and also to feel about the difference between the command line programming and the online compilers. You can run it in the compiler, but you're not supposed to hear the beep sounds there, because as I mentioned, it's just executed at the remote end. You're not supposed to hear the sound. However, if you run it on your own computer with command line, you're supposed to hear the 3 beep sound there, because it's just executed on your local computer, and you're controlling those speakers there. So you could know the difference by comparing between the online compilers and the command line. with this program. Okay, great. Let's just go, just continue our lecture. As I mentioned, for time limit, we cannot demonstrate too much details about how to do it on different operation systems. So today we're going to provide some overview about different ways of programming, but I'm glad to see that a lot of students already have the work on their computers. That's congratulations. That's what I want to say. And also, a lot of students are still struggling. Don't worry about that. As mentioned, we're going to explain everything, and we're going to demonstrate every details in the lab session. It may take a little bit efforts, but not much. Okay, I hope you already tried this program out, because it will, as I mentioned, help you to understand the difference between the online compilers and the command line ones. And also, if you have your program, your environment, your Python ready on your computers, you can try this as well, and also try this game as well, the paper, rock, scissors game. It's more fun. Okay, I hope I really see, as I mentioned, I worked on your program. But during trying it out, have you ever tried to understand what's happening in between with those programs? I guess some of you already tried. Even you haven't tried, you can roughly guess what they are, right? Because I mentioned this is programming language. This is not 001 machine languages. So it's easier for you to guess what's happening. The print is most intuitive one. We're printing something on the screen. So this might be a little bit complicated. Anyway, I see you already have the simple program worked on your computers. Let's try to read the program and to understand what's happening in between. As mentioned, it will be good to have a big picture about the programs. Here is it, what we used a lot, the Hello World program, and it just prints something. It's the easiest one. To understand what is happening, what is a necessary statement in Python program, I would like you to have the second one. It's really short program. It's just 4 lines of statement. You can try it on your computer in case you already get the environment ready. Either the command line or the last resort, the online compiler. This works on the online compilers as well, because this code doesn't control anything. So it will have the same result whether you're running it in an online compiler or the command line. So you can try this out. I will give you a couple of minutes. Great to see that a lot of students have already made it work on either the online compilers or other computers. So actually, if you're reading this program, it's easier to guess what's happening, right? So it's just a little program. It's trying to assign one random number, and every time you run it, so the range of that number is between 0 and 1,000. So every time you run this program, it gives you a random number. So that's what's happening. But what we can learn from here is actually the basic structure or basic components a Python program should have. The first one is import It's just import modules. I will explain what it is. It's like the toolboxes there. And here is called comments. Comments doesn't has to be executed because it will be ignored by your compilers there. It's just for references most of the time to help people to read your program, so, to understand your logic. And the ID here is a variable we call, and random, and this is a function call. We're actually calling this RANDINT. It's a function. This function gives us a random number. And we're also using this, we call the parameters, to tell the function that we need a random number between 0 and 1000. So those are variables. After generated, the number is generated, we assign that value to a variable called ID. Then here is a print. We have extended a little bit by display that number on the screen. Previously, when we're using the hello world, we're just print a fixed sentence, hello world. But right now, we're printing out a random number. That's the only difference. So don't be scared at this moment because we're going to introduce this later. Here it just help you to understand the basic stuff, the basic components of the Python. And let me explain what they are with a punch card point of view. So every line here is, you can consider them as a column in the punch card, and every line is just give one instruction to your computer. Let's see what they are. So here you could consider them as punch card, as I mentioned. So, and every line will be read by your compiler line by line, and the executed different stuff on your computer. For example, the import stuff. The import means that when your compiler reaches this line, and it will do something like, hi, operator, I know there is a box of punch cards in store, which called random. Random is some kind of card, a box of card, which has been punched by other programmers already. That means you don't have to punch by yourself because, for example, right now, do you know how to generate a random number with the computer? Maybe not, right? Because you're just a beginner of programming. You don't. It's not easy for you to write a program generating a random number. But there are a lot of programmers there. They have already done this. Their program are saved as like a box of cards there. So you can use their program to generate a random number for yourself. That's the reason you can import. It's like I'm borrowing this box of cards from other programmers there, but I write this down to let the computer know that I'm gonna use some of the already punched cards by other programmers there. And there is a box, and on top of that box, here is a name, a label saying random. That's the name of that box. So that's the reason import, where import a module from somewhere else. Okay, and after that, we go further to reach the second line, which is the comments. As I mentioned, the comments means that it's does nothing from a program point of view, because the compiler is just going to ignore them. This is just for humans reference, for programmers reference there. So it just ignore that comments. And then it goes further to the ID part. Here we are calling a function, as I mentioned, randint is a function, and the function is actually stored in a box of random. So when the compiler is seeing this, because the random box is already prepared by the import instruction, the operator will search over that box to find the randint from there, and it will execute that print that's punched on that car, and which will give you a random number. So that's what's happening. So it will find the car and generate a number, and then put it in the ID. The ID is a variable. After that, box, after executing that box of cars of random int, it gives a random number, but you have to save this number somewhere. This is the reason we have to use this ID. It's a variable. A variable is a repunchable car. So previously, we're punching holes on the car. Once it's punched, we cannot change. But variable is something like a repunchable car. Just think about you're using a pencil to mark the holes rather than just physically punch that hole through. Sorry. So in case you're using the pencil to mark the holes, you can remove it later because it just uses a pencil. You don't physically punch the holes through. In that case, you can change it to any of the kinds of holes in the future. So it's a repunchable car called a variable. And then once you have that car, you have a random number on that car, which can be used in the future. So that's the reason when we're calling the print. Print itself, it's a function as well. So as I mentioned, function is like a box of cards which are prepared by other programmers, and print is such kind of thing. It's another box of cards. Once I say the operator see this instruction, and he will take out that print box of a car and execute those cars inside that box. And this print is just going to display something on the screen. As long as you see here, we are let operators know that we want to use the value stored on the ID car. As I mentioned in previous slides, the ID is just a repunchable car there. So it just reads the value from the repunchable car ID and display it on the screen. So this is what happened. This is a very short program, but it's just include the basic components of the pattern programming, as mentioned. The import for find existing box of cards, the comments for humans reference, not for the computer, it's just ignored by the operator. And also we have variable to save values. We have other statements, either calling the functions, most of the time calling the functions. So that's a program in a punch card point of view. The punch card point of view will help you to understand what's happening inside that computer. However, sometimes, as I mentioned, the most important about programming is actually the logic of programming. So I would like to provide you another point of view. It's called company point of view about the programs, which will help you to understand the logic rather than what's happening inside that computer. So let's see what it is. Let's see, we have a hello.py. It's an empty file of program. It's like right now, we have empty company. So then now you are a CEO of that company. Your responsibility is write a program. To write a program is like to build a company. So the CEO's responsibility is to make things work by hiring the right person. So every company has a functionality, like every program has its functionality as well. So to help you understand that, let's look at this one. You say you have an empty file, input that command directly to generate a random number, which you have already tried. If this file only conclude, only has this line of code, and it's supposed to give you one arrow. That is, the name random is not defined. I've already seen that some students already have this arrow. What's the reason? The reason is, as I mentioned at the very beginning, if you have to use some of the functions, you have to import it first. Because the import is just lets the operator know you need a box of cards. From a company point of view, it's like you are hiring a worker. Every function is like a worker from the company point of view. So here it's like you are asking somebody to do something illegally. The random int is not a worker from your company. It's rather from the random company. So to hire somebody from the other companies, you should sign a contract, right? You should sign a contract with his company, and his company is called random. So in that case, we have to use the import first. Import is like signing a contract with a company. Here we're import random. It's like we are signing a contract with the random company. Then after signing the contract, we can hire his person, his staff, his worker for our purpose. So after import that, we can call that function. It just runs smoothly after we have everything there. This showing you how important important import is, and also I think also help you to understand why each part of that program. So here, let's go further. The import is for signing contract, and every function is like a worker. The CEO is like when he's writing a program, it's just writing down the routines of that company, like employer 1 doing this, employer 2 doing that. This is like writing a program by assigning each person a job. So here we hire someone from a random company, and then ask him to give us a random number. And then I will save that number here on ID. It's like when he has generated that number, we write it down on a paper and with that number. And this paper, to be found in the future easier, we put a label on that paper. The label is called ID. You can use any labels actually, but here we're using ID. So the variables is like the material to finish the job of that company. So in the future, we're going to have different materials there. We will introduce them later. But just remember, the ID is just like the materials. Once we have the materials and once we have the right person, doing the right job, and the complaint just runs smoothly, which will generate you a random number every time and display them on the screen. This is what the company is doing. So here, to summarize, you are a CEO to run a company. The programmer is like the CEO of that company, and his responsibility is to assign each person or worker a job, and then they can work together to generate something using the material, and the materials are the variables. And to hire people from other company, you have to sign a contract, and that's what the import is doing. Okay, right now you will see we have 2 points of views, for program, for Python program. One is a punch card program point of view. The other is the company point of view. So punch card point of view actually help you to understand what's happening inside, and the company point of view will help you to understand the logic of how this job have been assigned to different workers in that case. So we will come back to these 2 different point of view later when necessary. Here is a comparison between these 2 point of view. Like the function itself, in punch card point of view, there are boxes of cards, but in the company point of view, they're just employees, workers inside the company or in other companies there. The variables there is like repunchable cards in the punch card point of view. But in the company point of view, there are materials to produce products. And statements, every line of statements, punch card point of view is like a column on a card. And for the company, it's just a to-do list, recording what everybody should do. And the comments is like, in the punch card point of view, it's like some separate cards recording some references of what each of the boxes is doing. And for companies, they're just notes. It's just for reference purpose. It just doesn't do anything. So, okay, I will help in the future if you can switch between these 2 points of view, which will help you to understand what happening a program is. And here, I would like to preview a little bit what we're gonna learn in this course. The lecture 1 is an introduction. It's like we're introducing what the company can do. And get ready is how to initiate a company. When we have the tools ready, we have the people ready, we can start to build a company. And lecture 3, we will introduce numbers and loops. It's just simple materials and the automations for make a company work. And we are going to introduce charts and strings. It's complex, it's more complex materials. And also we have the control flow, which is like making rules of using materials, and also functions. It's like we are train our own workers there rather than we just hiring the workers from other companies there. So those are functions is doing. And we're lecture 7, we're gonna introduce lists and collections. And so it's more like a better organization of materials. And the files is like a warehouse management, because once we have those different data, those data are stored in the variables, but it just exists in the memory. We have to save it somewhere so we can use it in the future. That's the files. It's like when you're typing something in a Word, if you don't save it, it just disappears If you save it into files, you can use it in the future. Programming are pretty much like the same. You have to save them into the files. And there are several advanced topics there in the future. I don't want to mislead you at this moment, so we just skip. Okay, that's good. Those are basic stuff. Today we have introduced how to get the environment and tools ready, and we tried some of the programs. We don't, but at this moment, you just follow, you just use the program we provided. So starting from this moment, we're going to learn something. You can actually do the actual programming. We would like to start from the inputs and outputs because, as I mentioned, from the outside point of view, program is just about input and output. Okay, as we have mentioned here. Actually, as at the very beginning, I don't even most of the time we're just accepting the input from the keyboard, output them to the screen, but it doesn't have to be necessary that way because we can change each of the component to different stuff as we have demonstrated at the very beginning. But we have to start from something simple here. Let's start from the print. The easiest thing is you can print with a string. So we actually, our first program, Hello World, is that way. We're printing out something. It's a sentence, and we actually call it a string. So the print function is actually declared in Python by default. That means when you install the Python, you don't have to import them. It's your own person of your own company. You don't have to sign contracts with other companies. There you can use it directly. That's the reason by using the print worker, we don't have to import anything. You can just, but what's happening for import? It's from a complaint point of view, it's like when you are calling the print function, here is a script generated by the CEO. Here is a print, calling the input, calling the print. As I have mentioned, print is your own employee, so you don't have to sign a contract. The print is something like you are calling this worker to put something on the screen, and the content she's going to put on the screen is just you put it in between and here, and actually the computer will save that content in the memory. It's like it's just with a repunchable cards to recall the content you're going to print. This is what the worker, then when you call this, the worker will just copy that content to the screen, one character by one character there. This is just what print function is doing. So print, the easiest one. To use print, we can go without any of the parameters, like the hello world. But you have seen it there. If I can use the pointer. You have this, you have seen there, we have this marks there. And it's, I actually have seen some students, they actually follow this by typing by themselves. But using, those are, as I mentioned, is a string. a string are always included in a pair of markers like this, but we have a looks very similar to their like this. So, but it's just you trying to use the plain one. This is with format. So they are considered different thing when your computer is reading them. So if you include them in as a plain text, it will be considered as a string. If you input them in this format with format, it will be considered as different stuff. It's quite important. Some students get it wrong, get the arrow. The reason is they're using this rather than the plain text. So those tokens are defined by default in Python. So make sure we're going to use those a lot. It's called a string. So as I mentioned, every time, this is quite important because the computer is recognizing the content by the start, the beginning and the ending of that string with these two tokens. So as long as they appear as a pair, the content in between will be considered as a string. So this is quite important. The plain text one, not the formatted one. Okay, this is difference. This is a token we're going to use. And the other thing is the hello world is just simple. You just use a string and the worker is going to copy the content to the screen. But there are something actually a little bit special. I want to introduce it here. Is the converter. I just talked too much. So beside the string, there are some tags you can use, like this one. It's a slash. Sorry, I had to take a break. Sorry, allow me several seconds. Okay, so every time when you see this, it's a special character. It's not actually like in Hello World, we put every character. I mean, it appears on the screen the same as you put. Like H is a H, E is a E. If you don't use those use this, the N will appear as a N. But with the slash, it means it has different meaning when you're printing them. This means start a new line. So when you're printing them, it will start a new line to print the content after that. So to make it more intuitive, let's do that rather than just saying it. I open the CMD up, then I suppose already have a hello world. No, it's not. Which I don't have the hello world, but I can generate one. Sorry, Notepad rather than Notepad. I do have hello world there. So here I have hello world, And once I run this hello world, I just get the hello world. However, when I'm putting the /n and I put the welcome message there, you will see the difference. You see, hello world, and the n doesn't appear in the final outputs because I mentioned every time when they see the slash, and it just converts this n to different stuff. It just means a new line. Every time you put the n, it starts a new line. And if we don't use the slash, so see what happened there. So you will see the n appears there. Okay. So this is very special by printing, by change them into a new line. I start a new line there. So, however, if we don't just play with it, let me just print them in different ways so you can understand what's happening. Let's remove this first. So you can compare them back to the programs we have. Previously, we're using just one line of statement to print two lines of stuff, but we are using the /n there. So /n generate just start the printing from a new line, but by default, when you're printing something, it will print as a single line. So if you're using two statement, it's going to print two lines. That means you will have the same outputs as the previous program. Let me just put them together. Will be easier for you to understand. Welcome. Let me put some reference. Let's put in two lines. So you see from here. Here's the difference. The output is exactly the same, but the print command we call are different. Here we're just using this special character there, the /n to generate one more line. We can do it. Adding one more to see the difference. You could see here, because we're putting two /n there, it's gonna give us two new lines there. So you see a break there between the hello world and a welcome here. So this is a way calling the print to print out a function. And there are some certain thing you have to know is there are some special characters. For example, here are actually /t we can use. Let's see what's happening. So see what it gives to you. You will see here, hello world, but it's still in one line, but the /t means we generate a table character there. So you could use sometime it will be easier to making different lines aligned. Let me print another stuff to help you understand what it means. Let's see, we have two words. We have comp 10, 12. Because those words are with different lengths. You will see here. And maybe we just use 2. Make them align better. You will see here the welcome and the 10, 12 just align. If you don't use that, it's not easy to make them align. In that, let's see, let's use space instead. They're not aligned, right? So that's the reason that /t is called a table, because it helps you to make in the table. Inside that table, different words can align well there. So okay, printing without parameters is that way. Just remember, you have a begin token and ending token there, and in between the content will be recognized, be used as a content to print. The /n start a new line. The /t is using the table character, and just remember that if you don't do anything, the one line of print will just print one single line for you, and a new start. And when you're calling the next print, it will start from a new line there automatically. But you can also use the command, use a /n to do similar things in different scenario. It will be very useful. And so that's what's happening. It's actually print is just copying the content of the punch card to the screen. And so let's do some real stuff. Here is a print. Let's try this program and see what will happen. Okay, let's just continue. I see a lot of students already getting worked on their computers or on the online computers there. And it just seems like this is a little bit easy for you. Maybe we could put more challenges later. Okay, just joking. I would like to make 2 little corrections there. Not necessarily correction. It's just by adding some information to avoid you're misled. First of all, it's here. I would emphasize that a little bit. The token for I just say it again. The token for recognize the string by the Python program is the quotation marks, but the plain one, plain quotation mark. That means in the plain text mode, you type that directly with your keyboard, not like those formatted one like in a Word, And because in another text editor, they're trying to put some formats on the text. Just use a plain one. In most of the text editor is by default is in the plain model. Quotation marks for string start with one plain quotation mark and with another quotation mark, which will be considered as a string in a Python program. This is quite important. And the second one is those \n. I was just saying slash in short, but to avoid confusion, it should be backslash, because slash and backslash are different things in Python. The backslash is converting the character after as a special character, like as well mentioned here. \n is starts a new line. \t is adding a table there. But slash itself is just a slash. We can try it here to see the difference. Let's see. Welcome. Let's put a backslash, and then we put a slash n here to see the difference between them. So you see here, the \n gives you start printing at the new line. That's why you see hello. No, that's the reason you see the welcome appears at the second line of the output. But the /n itself is just slash, and n hasn't been converted into any specific character. It's just /n here. They're just considered as one of the character in that string. So that's the difference. And the third thing I want to mention here is as every time you use print, it's automatically will print the string within one single line. The reason is actually you can actually control the ending character with print by using the end here. It's by default will put the \n, but you can actually change them to any other character. Let's see, we are using the table as the ending character. In that case, when we start a new line here, let's see, and you're supposed to see that they appear within the same line. See, the comp, even I'm using two prints there, but I have changed the ending character of that print, so they appear within the same line. So this is just for your reference. So I think at this moment, the easiest way is just use the print a string directly to avoid to be confused. Oh, let's go where we were. So here is where we were, and I see a lot of students have already tried that, and you are supposed to have this one, a rectangle like the result. You see, here is it's kind of different by comparing the outputs with the code. In the code, you're saying something like this, but when the output, you're saying a perfect rectangle. Why? The reason is every character in a string, it will be considered as a single block. And to print out thing on the screen, it's just copying that character one by one to the blocks. Because in your text editor, the space doesn't take equal width, the same width as the star. So which make these two lines shorter than the previous one. However, when you are using print to print them out on the screen, they will have the equal width. So the space itself will take one block. It's like the Lego base plate. The space itself will take one block there. And then you will see this rectangle. And you will see the output of those two. The line 2 and line 3 are actually with the same length as the line 1 and the line 4. So here it's just for your reference. It's kind of difference between the output and the code you have written. Because I see quite good example, like I see one student actually print out one Apple logo there. It's a good figure. Maybe you can share it later in the chat box. I think it's good. Okay. That means you're actually trying out the print by yourself. But let's increase the challenge a little bit. As I mentioned, can you print a triangle? In case you already got from here, like one character, take one block of the output, and then and can you print a triangle there? There are different ways of doing that, but the simplest way just use the print. So I will give you 5 minutes to try that. See if you can print out a triangle there. Okay, it's good to see that a lot of students have made the work there. To print a triangle with the print, easiest way is, let's do it here. You can do something like, for the first line, you print 1 star, and second, you print 2 star, and print. You can go further, and to A 3 stars. So you can do something like that, and let's do it. It's around here. Okay, you see a triangle there. However, this is not the only option. You can just do it with 1 line of code, like 1 star, backslash n, 2 star, backslash n, 3 star, and you can go on and down for 4 star, and it's gives you the same thing, much easier to print. So anyway, there are different options there. If you have it work, and that means already understand how print work. That's a good thing. And now I guess you understand what this program does, which we have shown in the lecture 1, which will print out a figure like that, and also a pattern there as well. So let's, for the time limitation, I'm just going to proceed. I will skip that part. You can try that at home to print more better figures there by yourself. Okay. this is pretty much like the way of using print without parameters. It's just print the string. It's what basically what the hello world is doing, which we have introduced. However, the second way is we can actually print with parameters, which we have done it in the second program we have shared to assign a random number and print them out. If you don't print them out, it just stay in a memory and nobody knows what the number is. So in that case, we have to print them out with the parameters. Here is very similar stuff. If you try it out, and we're trying to print hello year, and for year we can assign them to a number. So let's do that. Let's do that first and then explain what happened. Let's see. Let me just remove those stuff. Let's see, we have a variable year. We can assign them a value as 2022. Then we can print that number out, say hello, but we need them to be displayed there. Okay, that's it. So embarrassing. Formatting, this is to replace this parameter with a value. So that's the reason we're seeing here, we actually replace that hello and 2022 and by 2020 and 21. So we can change that to back the slides. I actually forgot the format. So anyway, this is a way of using print with a format with parameters, and you will see here we're using a format tag. This is called a format tag. It's what's happening in the memory in the punch card point of view is it's like a placeholder. Which will reserve one place to print in the future. By print without parameters, we just print out the string, because which means during printing, the operator knows the length of that string, so it can copy those characters one by one to the screen. However, by printing with parameters, the length might vary from each other, depends on the content of that year. So we need to use the format tag to reserve that enough space for that changing value. So what's happening here is we have car actually recording what's going to display on the screen. It's a car. However, this format tag is like reserving that space for the further content, which is recorded or stored in another car, which we put the value 2022. So during printing with parameters, the operator will copy the value from this year car to the place which has been reserved by the format tag. Just replace that part. That's the reason you see a hello 2022, and also this is what's happening. It's not the print is not copying the value directly, rather replace the place reserved for that value. So it's going to copy. After this has been done, it will copy that content to the screen. So this is a way to use with parameters. And is what I have demonstrated. Very similar program. But remember to use the format. I just provided a bad example with which I forgot to use the format, and it's not going to give you the result you want, the format. So you can try it out here. Here is a full example to help you understand how to use the print with parameter and without parameter, and also for to use it with parameter, and actually you can input different numbers of values there, and as I have shown here. So you can add this. I will give you a couple minutes. You can add this to the end of the program you just created for printing out either the triangle or the rectangle example. See here, you can actually print them with 1 parameter, 2 parameters, 3 parameters. But very important is when you're printing out different numbers of parameters, you have to reserve that space with the equal number of tags there. So you see here, when I'm printing with 1 parameter, I reserve 1 place with 1 format tag. When I'm printing out 2 values, I'm using 2 format tags. And when it goes for 3, there are 3 tags there. So the numbers have to be matched. Okay. It's quite simple, I guess. It really have to work due to time limitation. But in between, I received one message from chat box. Actually, I asked the student to share with the logo, the Apple logo they have print. Here's the result, actually. Oh, here's an example of using that print. Thank you very much. And okay, let's go back to this slide, to the lecture. And this is quite simple, printing multiple parameters there. The key, as I mentioned, to make the numbers of tags and the number of parameters match. And also, do not forget to use the format. And it's quite important. So, okay. So, if everything works well, you're supposed to have this one. And so let's skip that part. And again, that's quite important. The backslash rather than the slash is called an escape sequence character. And the alphabet will be converted into special characters there. How about, but in case you want print the backslash itself rather than make it a special character, you have to use 2 backslash there. It will convert the second backslash as a real backslash character rather than certain special characters there. Okay. Backslash n starts a new line, and backslash t print a table character there. And also that's a key. Okay, that's pretty much about the outputs. We're gonna use the print a lot for practice our programming skills later. That's one. And there are different types of outputs even. We will demonstrate different types of output in the future later, but most of the time we're just output them to the screen using the print. If you already had the print worked on your computers, and congratulations. Um, and, and then the input. Let's take the input from the keyboard. Sometimes we need interactions between users. We ask the user to input something. Then we can process the inputs and output some of the other stuff. And here's the input function. The input function are usually like this. You use the input. Input is another function which are declared in Python, so you don't have to import them. You don't have to sign contract with his company because he's in the Python company already. So to use the input, this is format. And because every time when you're asking user to input something, you usually will ask a question as well at the same time. And we call this promote string to give some hint to the user what they should input. And then after calling that function, the user's input will be, usually we store them into a variable. Here I use an X. Actually, you can use different name. So don't worry about that part. We will explain the variables later. Currently, you just use any old name you like. The input works in this way. Let's see the CEO, when the CEO writing a script about by assigning jobs to people and by calling the input, this line of code will have the workers to prepare first punchable car in a screen in a workspace named X to take the input from the user. Actually here we're accepting the user's keyboard input, and that information will copy it to the punchable car. So like this. So user are type the input here, hello world. Hello world string will be copied back to the car named X. It's a punchable car, so we can put new values on that car. So after that, the X car is with the string hello world, and you can use it in the future. So that's a code to use the input. And you can try out this very simple program there. Here we are asking user what year is it, and also we give some hint input here, and you have to use enter to conform. Then the year inputted by the user will be printed out to let it to demonstrate what year it is. And actually, I use this one to type the type of the variable. So every variable comes with a type. We will explain in the future, but here it's very simple to see that when we are accepting the input from users, it has been saved in this year variable, which is with a type string. So as I have mentioned, so far we're dealing with string a lot. We will explain what is string and what other data types later, but here most important lines of code are the first line and the last line of this. This is just for your reference. We're printing out the type of the year, which we will introduce later. So I'll give you another 5 minutes. Maybe you can try the input out. And here you could see we're using the \n as well. That's the reason you see here. What year is it? And then it starts from a new line by printing input here, enter to confirm here. So it doesn't appear in the same line. So that which means those \n worked here as well. It's just like what we have used for the print. Right? Input is something like they're going to print this string to give a hint to the user where to input, what to input, or so on and so forth. And then user knows how. Okay, very good. I see some students already have the work. And they are even programmed by themselves to change this example a little bit. For example, I see one student is changing this string to asking the user's name and then print out hello, the name. So that's pretty good. That shows a good understanding about the input and the print stuff there. Quite good. But I also see one mistake they made there. Some of you are using the capital P there. So this is quite important that we haven't mentioned. Python distinguish between the capital character and lowercase character. So they are different things. The capital P, changing of any of the character of the print into capital or changing any of them just make it a different thing in Python. So print function is with characters all in lower cases. So that's the print. Don't change it, and this is quite important. For variables actually as well. If you change a capital variable and a lowercase variable are different variables, will be considered as two different variables there. But let's explain that later. So at this moment, I guess you really practiced a little bit about the input, about the print. I guess I'm glad to see that a lot of students are making their own programs there, which demonstrate their understanding about the input and the print. That's a good thing. So this is pretty much like what I'm going to introduce today. And further, we're going to release the content of the tutorial and the lab sessions immediately after this lecture. And you're supposed to find them on the Blackboard. It will be good. You can follow. We actually record several videos for the lab session there. You can follow the videos and there are several tasks there as well. But let's explain them in a lab session. And that is all for today. And here is 5 minutes to go to summarize what's happening today. And to program, every time you have to see if you need variable and see what kind of workers you need. That means the functions you need. You have to import or sign a contract with the company or sign imported modules before you can use them. Comments start with a sharp character. Strings start ending with the quotation marks. And you have to distinguish between the slash and the backslash. Backslash followed by a predefined alphabet, which convert that character into special characters rather than itself. The slash is just a normal character there. And also when printing with parameters, you have to make you have to make sure to use the equal numbers of tags and the parameters. They have to be matched. And the \n and \t are two frequently used spatial characters, and one for start a new line, another for adding a tab to the characters. And that's all for today. Thank you very much, and see you next week.